Hey everybody, before the video starts, I would like to mention two things. One, I'm sorry I haven't posted anything in a while. Just like last time, my girlfriend was staying over and I wanted to spend some time with her before I got back to making videos. And the second thing I would like to bring up is that I finally got a sponsorship! Yeah, I understand that sponsorships are kind of frowned upon when it comes to YouTube, but I thought the best thing that I wanted to do for this channel, and something I've wanted to do for a while, was to have a sponsorship that stuck well with my content, but not only that, but it was something that I genuinely liked using. And if you couldn't already tell by either the description or the comment that I'm going to be making in this video, today's video is sponsored by ExpressVPN. More on that later.
A Pan Am jet touched down in New York, and four mopheads, calling themselves the Beatles, got off.
Finally, the Beatles records of the 60s look like being hits all over again, with their first four albums being reissued on compact disc tomorrow.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Beatles!
Oh yeah, I'll tell you something.
It should go without saying that the Beatles is one of the most revolutionary, haha, see what I did there, musicians in the past 50 years, starting out in 1960 as the Quarrymen, then the Silver Beatles, then finally simply just the Beatles. The Fab Four lads from Liverpool swept the nation and single-handedly helped cause the British invasion during that time. I am far from a Beatles channel, but I am a fan of their music, and I will talk about them alongside Michael Jackson and Billie Eilish any day of the week. All 8 of them. I'm sorry, that was a terrible joke. From Please Please Me, to Beatles to Sell, to Rubber Soul, to Revolver, to their groundbreaking album trilogy that was Sgt. Pepper's The White Album and Abbey Road, their music was absolutely groundbreaking at the time, both figuratively and literally, as thousands of fans would parade the stage to see them perform. It was phenomenal how big they were at the time, and they are still incredibly famous to this day. Sadly though, like many things, all good things must come to an end, and by 1970, the year that ended the decade that they had dominated, the Beatles had gruesomely split apart. And I say gruesomely because their breakup and cause of breakup is one of the most well-known, somewhat well-documented moments in music history, and it's something people still reference and discuss to this very day. It's kind of ridiculous how massive their breakup was. But what if there was a point in time where they didn't break up? What if I told you that there was some Marvel-esque alternate timeline where not only were all four Beatles alive and well, but also still composing music and touring to this day and releasing brand new albums? And also, what if I told you that one of those albums is currently here in our current timeline? Well, that's what I'm going to be discussing today. In today's video, we will be diving into the alternate reality Beatles album that is Everyday Chemistry. Before I can even dive into this mystery, I would like to discuss the day that this supposed album was revealed to the public. Wednesday, September 9th, 2009, aka 090909. Not only was this the year that the movie 9 was released, but it was also a pretty big day for Beatles fans, as they not only got that big Beatles collection for both mono and stereo, but they also got the Beatles rock band. One of my favorite things that got released during this time was this Apple Records shaped USB drive that consisted of, well, at the time, the highest quality copies of the Beatles albums digitally. It was a really cool collector's piece, and it goes for ridiculous prices nowadays. And what a perfect day too, considering that the number 9 was very synonymous with the Beatles, especially with John. I mean, why else would he make Revolution 9?
Oh, and the Beatles song, Revolution number 9.
I like the Beatles. They wrote good songs.
Oh yeah?
Number 9.
Make it stop!
But yeah, as I was saying, September 9th, 2009 was a wonderful day for Beatles fans. But little did they know that they would secretly get another surprise, as a new website had just popped up that goes by the name TheBeatlesNeverBrokeUp.com. This website claimed that they own a cassette copy of a brand new Beatles album, like a brand new album with original material that was released sometime after Let It Be, titled Everyday Chemistry, which contained 11 songs and all of them politely available for you to listen to via a download. And oh man, this website is a beauty to behold. There's actually quite a lot more that's going on to this website rather than just being a download for the album. There's 3 pages on this website that you can access. The home page, which lets you go and download the album, as well as read a little snippet about the album and contact them through an email by the name of thebeatlesneverbroakeup@yahoo.com, which I'm pretty sure is inactive now. The story page, which goes into detail as to how this man got into this position that led him to owning a copy of a new Beatles album. And lastly, the pictures page, which actually goes into detail as to photos to where he was at, as well as photos of the cassette itself. So allow me to tell you a brief summary of this story and what it's about. James Richards, an anonymously named person, was going on a trip from Turlock to Livermore, California. His dog needed to use the restroom, so he had to find the nearest parking area available to let his dog out, only for the dog to end up chasing a rabbit, so he had to go and chase after the dog, only to end up unconscious after tripping over a rabbit hole. He ends up waking up in a strange unknown room with a bandage on his head, only for him to be introduced to a man with long black hair and casual clothing. The man introduced himself as Jonas, and when James asked him where he found him, Jonas responded saying that he found him 20 feet away. However, he distinctively knew that he was in a deserted area when he tripped over, so this ended up being some kind of parallel Earth that he was in, and Jonas found him through a parallel travel device. In this supposed alternate dimension, ketchup is purple. Yes, they actually go into detail about that in the story. Cassettes got more popular than CDs, which is funny considering nowadays people go for vinyl and cassette rather than CD. And the most essential difference to this story, that all 4 Beatles are alive and well and got together and are still touring and making music to this day. In total, Jonas had about 7 cassette tapes. One of them was actually store-bought, which ended up being Sgt. Pepper's, and the other 6 looked like they were recorded on a blank cassette tape and had their album's titles and songs written on them. There were about 4 albums in Jonas's collection that James never knew about. One of them would be Everyday Chemistry. They would later set up the portal for him to go home, but there was one catch. He couldn't bring anything from the current dimension they were in to James's regular dimension. No pictures, no souvenirs, no tapes, nothing. Of course, we all know that would never happen, as he secretly brought the Everyday Chemistry cassette tape with him. He would then go back into his regular dimension with his dog, of course, because that's what he was going after for in the first place, and then proceed to drive back home knowing that he had brought a supposedly brand new Beatles album with him on cassette. And that is where our story would end. Now, although I sadly can't go into full detail on all of these songs, and I can't really play them for copyright reasons, supposedly, but I would like to do some quick reviews on each of the songs on this album. The starting track on the album, 4 Guys, is just incredible, and has some kick-ass vocals from Paul and George. Talking to Myself has this really cool melodic flute sample, and I just adore John's vocals on this one. Anybody Else has this really cool guitar centerpiece to it, and they do some cool reversing stuff midway through the song, and also this is the first time that Ringo can also sing alongside them as well. Sick to Death is this really cool angry centerpiece for John, and there's also these little parts where they pitch down both the song itself as well as the vocals. It's just really cool. Jen is really lovely with both the drums and the guitar, and I also love this cool phasing effect that they put in certain sections of the song. I'm Just Sitting Here is very laid back and also has this somewhat country aesthetic to it. I love the vocals from John and George on this one. I'm sorry, I just really like the vocals on this album. Something about the kick that they use on Soldier Boy, I just find aesthetically aesthetically pleasing, especially for a Beatles song. Over the Ocean is really emotional, especially for the chords, and I'm very down for it. Days Like These just combines the lo-fi-like drums in Soulja Boy, the country-like aesthetic of I'm Just Sitting Here, and the reversing parts of Anybody Else, and just combines them all into one. Saturday Night is definitely one of the most up-tempo songs on the whole album. I just love what they did here, especially with that phasing in the opening. And lastly, the final song on the album, Mr. Gator's Swamp Jamboree, is this all-instrumental musical manifesto, similar to The End on Abbey Road. But yeah, I really like what they went for on this album. I love the sound of it. I love the instrumentation. The vocals are very spot on. I really don't see anything wrong about this, other than the fact that it's actually just a mashup album. But first, I would like to give a big thank you to the first ever sponsorship for this YouTube channel, ExpressVPN. Your IP address is very essential when it comes to you, the internet, and your location. So if you end up getting into a situation where you accidentally click a scummy IP grabber link, they can easily end up finding you thanks to your IP address. What a VPN does, especially ExpressVPN, is it takes that IP address and funnels it through a tunnel. This tunnel would not be seen by either your internet provider or the website that you go to. Instead, all they'll ever see is the new IP address that you're connected to. The Beatles were well known for going on world tours, so now you can do the same yourself. You can go to Japan, you can go to Australia, Germany, Mexico, Canada, the UK, and the best part is ExpressVPN has support with Netflix. So if you ever wanted to watch, let's say for example, South Park on Netflix, even though it's not available in the US version, you could just select the UK and you can watch it from there. If you like the type of content I create and you want to start supporting what I do, then go to the link in the description below to start using ExpressVPN today. They actually have a really good deal going on right now where you only have to pay $7 a month for a 15-month payment plan, which I have to say myself, that's a really good deal. So what are you waiting for? Go to the link in the description below and give yourself a better sense of privacy. Alright, now back to the video. There's actually quite a lot that I can say about this whole thing. Like, not only just the album, but also the story of the whole thing. First of all, why did he specifically have to go into detail about the fact that ketchup was purple? That's honestly one of the weirdest inclusions to add, and I don't understand it. Second of all, why was Jonas's Beatles collection mostly consisting of recorded albums onto a blank cassette tape? Couldn't he have just been able to buy the albums brand new, or were they really obscure at the time? Were they given to him? Did he have access to them at the time? And even then, how was he able to record a high quality album onto another cassette, especially when CDs didn't catch on at the time? Was the album available on CD at the time or available digitally at the time, so he was able to just record it onto cassette tape? And third of all, why is this specific brand of cassette tape so hard to find? Out of the 6 photos that were available on the picture section of the website, one of them actually shows the cassette. It looks like this album was recorded on a General Electric 60-minute cassette tape. When I look up General Electric cassette tape online, I either get cassette tapes that are very similar to it, or, of course, you guessed it, Everyday Chemistry. So it seems that whatever type of cassette tape that was used to record this album seems to be one of the hardest types of cassettes to find. Oh, and also James Richards, the name that was given to the anonymous person that's in this story, is not only the name of a famous British artist, but it's also just the legal names of Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr combined into one. But that's not even the weirdest part about this story. The weirdest part is that this whole album turned out to just be a mashup album. Yeah, all 11 songs that are on this album are actually just mashups of songs from the Beatles' solo careers. Take, for example, Anybody Else, my favorite song on the album. This song is actually just a mashup of 3 solo Beatles songs: Some Days by Paul McCartney, One Day at a Time by John Lennon, and Monkey See, Monkey Do by Ringo Starr. I actually remember showing this album to my parents, and my dad managed to find out that Four Guys, the starting track on the album, actually just has Band on the Run on it. And the other songs turn out to be George Harrison's When We Was Fab and John Lennon and Yoko Ono's I'm Moving On. But when asked about this being just a mashup album, or that all the songs on here are very similar to the Beatles' solo songs in our regular dimension, James supposedly responded in saying that the ideas that the Beatles had in the dimension that he was at when Everyday Chemistry was a thing were very similar to the ideas that they had gotten in their solo careers, which I guess would make sense, but at the same time, that honestly really doesn't make sense. Take, for example, as I just said, Four Guys, which is a mashup of Band on the Run, When We Was Fab, and I'm Moving On. Band on the Run wasn't recorded until 1973, I'm Moving On wasn't recorded until 1980, and When We Was Fab wasn't recorded until 1987. That's a whole 7-year gap between all 3 of those songs. Maybe they could have gotten the idea earlier than that, but I still don't think that makes any sort of sense at all, especially when this song meshes up all 3 of those songs. So I think it's really obvious that what's going on here is that whoever this person is just wanted to make a really cool mashup album and just play it off as if it was an alternate dimension Beatles album and just created a story to go along with it. Especially when some of these effects that are on here, even though they have existed during this time, they don't really sound like something that could have been possible at the time. But to be fair, in this supposed James's defense, he probably didn't know what year this album was released in. Some people might say it's 1971, some people could be saying 75 or 85 or whatever, so who knows when this album got released. I kind of want to go into a little bit of detail in this part of the video because honestly, it's one of my favorite topics to discuss. There are still in the real world unused, unreleased, and even brand new songs being made to this day from the Beatles. The most recent of brand new songs being Free as a Bird and Real Love from 1995. But it's not like we're going to be running out of other new Beatles songs anytime soon, especially when they're still releasing new deluxe sets of their previous albums. And there's also still one more avant-garde piece of Beatles music that is yet to be released, but one of the Beatles members still insists on releasing it to this very day, called Carnival of Light. This was recorded for a festival of the same name, and it actually predates Revolution 9. It's about 14 minutes long, and while the song has yet to be released, there are people that have listened to it and have described what the song sounds like. Paul McCartney still insists on wanting to release it to this day, but needs to get approval from either the members or the estates, and snippets of it would later go on to be used in Revolution 9. So yeah, while the Beatles themselves are no longer a thing, there are still plenty of different pieces of Beatles material that are not only still new or unheard, but they are still being released to this very day. So I don't think we're gonna run out anytime soon, especially if in the future they're ever gonna hit that 100-year anniversary. So that was Everyday Chemistry, and honestly, it was very interesting. Like, I get it, the whole premise of it and the story of it and the album itself is all fake, but I just adore the amount of effort that was put into this. Like, whoever originally made this mashup album spent so much time and effort into making it, and it sounds phenomenal, but they decided to go one step further by making it a supposed alternate reality album, making up a whole story for it, and making it its own website. Like, that is some serious dedication going on there. But yeah, even though the whole story of Everyday Chemistry is completely fake, this album is still worth a listen, whether you're a Beatles fan or not. And I don't think there's gonna be anything like it anytime soon. Hey everybody, thank you all so much for watching this video. This is one of the most left field videos I have ever worked on, but man, it was a lot of fun to make. Again, thank you to ExpressVPN for sponsoring today's video. If you want to go check out my link, it will be both in the description and in the comment of this video. But I want to hear what you think. What are your thoughts on the Everyday Chemistry album, and what are your thoughts on the Beatles? Tell me all that in the comments below. If you have any other suggestions as to what I should discuss next, and if you have any fan art that you want to submit to me, you can submit them all via Twitter, Discord, and in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, and if you're new, the subscribe button, and the notification bell so you'll be notified whenever I upload a brand new video. And if you want to support me even further, you could go check out my Ko-fi or my merch store, which will both be in the description below. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!